So you found the dream house, you've got a price agreed, but how do we get it through to legal completion? So typically on this channel, I do all things property investing, but this is good for you if you are selling your property or buying your first house. You should know what is happening when you actually go through the legal process. So first of all, do you need a solicitor? The answer is no, you don't actually. It is not a legal requirement whatsoever to use a solicitor to purchase or sell a property. However, it's so normalized in the UK, at least, by the way, UK specifically, in America, you might use a realtor. You really do need one because of the mindsets of a lot of people. Imagine you go into a vendor, somebody selling their property, or an agent, and they go, great, what's your solicitor details? And you go, I don't have any. That probably won't get a great response. So the solicitor process, or conveyancing, is the legal process that's going through asking all of the questions so that you own the property. All right? Or somebody else does. So what actually happens? Let me take you through the step-by-step of what you need. Now, I'm going to be upfront. If you're a solicitor, I love you all. However, two things you need from a great conveyancer is communication and speed. I'm going to be real with you. 95% of conveyancers are not very well known for communication and speed. All right? So, not knocking all of them. We've all got good and bad in our industries. All right? So we really want somebody who's going to be communicative because it takes time. Just so you know, how long does it take to go through a full legal process, which I'm going to go through. If you ask some solicitors, they'll say 4 months. Some will say it can be done in 8 weeks. Now, what I'm going to tell you is it really depends on the conveyancer and how you're buying it. If you are purchasing cash, then you can get it done as quick as you want. Now, I've actually had solicitors when I go, I need to complete in 4 weeks, and they've gone, no, it's physically impossible. It cannot be done. I've never seen it. That is not a solicitor you want to work with. By the way, if you're buying your first house and you're buying through an estate agent and they are recommending a solicitor, I would almost definitely not work with them. Nothing against you if you are one of them, but more than likely they are a big sausage factory, okay? So in order to be great at conveyancing, it's how many cases, and it's not that they're bad conveyancers, by the way, but in order to be great, I think a solicitor should be able to manage about 70 cases. Now, some of those that the estate agents refer, they're like 250 cases that they're managing, and then somebody's signing off at the top. And it's just not a good business model for actually helping people. It is for churning profits. So if your solicitor says it can't physically happen, that's wrong. Just so you know, the quickest ever that I personally have purchased a property is 1 day. We agreed it in the morning and we completed in the afternoon. For an investor, the fastest we've ever done it is 2 days. Okay? 2 days. If it's a mortgage purchase, and mortgage being lending on the property, right now it's really going to depend how good the broker is and the solicitor, but really you're looking between 8 and 12 weeks. And that's simply because there's a few more questions that get asked, okay? So that's a general consensus, what actually happens. So the first thing that happens is you've got the vendor, the person selling the property. Let's put seller actually to make it easier language. You've got the buyer, and then you've got the solicitor and the solicitor on there. Solicitors. Okay, so first thing that happens is, number one, the solicitor gets the contract pack out to the seller. So what they're going to do is this is going to be a basic contract, your LP1s, your legal tickets in there. So it's going to be your fixture and fittings and things like that. And until they send that information back to their solicitor, you can't really start the legal process. So that's stage one. You're going to get all of that filled in. At that point, this solicitor that's representing the seller will send over the contract pack to your solicitor. Let's assume you are the buyer here. They're going to send it over there. Now, once your solicitor has got this contract, what they can do is they can raise inquiries. I'm going to put ENQ. They're inquiries, and inquiries are basically questions. Okay, questions going, hey, we've noticed this on the outside of the property. Hey, we need to know the boundary of this. Who owns that fence there? Who owns that side? all of these questions. Is there anything we need to worry about with this? Has there ever been any problems with X, Y, Z? And eventually what happens is those inquiries come back and they are satisfied. So we are satisfied with the inquiries. What that basically means is we've got all of our answers and we're happy to move on. Now the reality, just so you know, I'll just bring this up for a second, works more like this. They ask 10 questions and they get 7 answers. And then they'll ask 3 more questions plus the 3 that they missed. Then they might get 2 more answers. And then they'll go back round and it goes again and again and again. I don't know why solicitors don't go, hey, I've got these 15 questions, and the solicitor goes, here's 8 of them, and by the way, I'm working on the other 7. I'll get back to you by the end of Friday. But they don't really do that. So what happens is you ask questions, they get the responses. Now, a good solicitor will make sure that the inquiries are actually unique to the property. You can always tell a sausage factory solicitor or conveyancer based on if they just have a template inquiries list. So something that is really annoying is if you're buying a freehold house, which means you own the ground on it, so you don't pay service charge or ground rent, and this solicitor goes, hey, what's the ground rent and service charge on this property? Well, there isn't one. So why are you asking those questions? At the same time, what your solicitor's going to do is get something called searches. Now, searches, when you are signing up with a solicitor, you'll find that when they quote you for their fees, they'll say, this is my fee plus disbursements. And what disbursements is a cost that the solicitor has outside of it. So it could be a bank transfer fee. It could be a land registry fee. It could be a holding fee because they need to keep a folder on file, a file on you for like 6-7 years after. And one of them is searches. So searches is things like a mining report. Are there any mines going on? Maybe it's a radon report. Like, is there anything in the ground we need to know about? A flood risk assessment on the area. It could be council, the local council search. And that often is the slowest one, by the way. Anything involving the council is quite slow, right? But these will go out at the beginning. Honestly, if you're looking to speed up your process as much as possible, it's this part here, getting all of the details from the vendor to their solicitor and starting the searches as quick as possible. What then happens is once the searches come in and they're happy with everything that's been found, at that point they will go, we are ready to exchange on this property, subject to the funds coming in, which I'll touch on in a moment. Then what will happen is they will send you a few pieces of documentation. So one of them is the TR1, which is the transfer form. This is what they're going to send off to land registry, where it's official that you would own the property on paper. And you're going to get a contract for everything, dictating everything that you're going to go, yes, I am buying this property for XYZ, blah, blah, blah. And you're also going to get a completion statement. I may have missed something off there, but a completion statement is basically, give me this money. So I need your deposit, your stamp duty, my fees, everything else. Okay. So at that point, we then move to the finance stage, which I'll go through quickly because it is during that conveyancing process. So again, if you've got the seller and the buyer, at that point, they will request everything on the completion statement. So it'll be the deposit, fees, and the stamp duty. Say at that point you're also getting lending, so that's going to be usually with a residential you're going to put about 10% down. With a buy-to-let we're going to put down 25%. Then what's going to happen from the lender, they're also going to send over 75%. That's going to stand with your solicitor. 100% goes over of the purchase price goes over to the seller's solicitor first. That's the souls there. Then, of course, if they have a mortgage on the property, that then gets paid off first. And the reason for that is whenever you've got a mortgage mortgage lender will have a first charge on your property. That means they need to get paid back. And then any remaining funds will go to the seller. So hopefully that gives you a really good idea of the process. Now, the reality of this is it takes a long bloody time going back and forth. And so you need to speed this up. Just so you know, this baffles me. The average amount of time it takes a vendor to fill in, the seller, to fill in their details to give it to their solicitor is 24 3 days. So just by targeting that part of the process, you can really speed up your end-to-end legal process and really get this done quickly, all right? So what tends to happen at that point, by the way, is once they have got your money, they can exchange contracts, which, by the way, isn't that big of a deal. It's a phone call, you're ready to exchange. Yes, obviously paperwork all signed. And then completion is when you send the money. So what happens is you exchange first, usually with a deposit. And that makes it all legally binding. It means that, let's say you exchanged with 10% down. If you then pulled out of the property, then the vendor would get to keep the house. Obviously you pulled out, and they would get that 10%, you would lose it. Okay? On the other side, it means that if they tried to pull out, I've never heard of that happening, by the way. It doesn't mean it won't. You could then sue them for any losses within that and any loss of potential profits that were in there as well. So you exchange first to lock out the contracts, then your solicitor will send over the money and complete on the property. Now, if you're purchasing a residential property, it's quite common to exchange on Friday and then complete the following Friday. And what that does is gives 7 days. So if you're in a chain where you're buying a property, they're buying a property, etc., gives you a chance to get all of your stuff out and move on, and it all exchanges and completes at the same time. With investments, almost all of the time, they will exchange and complete on the same day. So often it will happen in the same sort of half an hour of each other, which is really weird for some people, but it makes it much quicker because you're not needing to wait for most people to move if you're purchasing a buy-to-let property, for example. Just so you know, really randomly, not sure why this is, but for some reason, Fridays is exchange and completion day. Almost always, a solicitor will exchange and complete on Fridays. Now, if this sounds like a lot of effort to you, if you're buying your own home, this is what you need to go through. Obviously, your solicitor's there, but you need to be there to push them and put that pressure on. We have conversations with our solicitors every single day for the whole duration of a completion, making sure it goes through. And you need to find that limit where you leave them alone to do their job, but also be loud enough in their ear where they're prioritizing your cases, because ultimately, even a good one's going to have 70 cases, roughly 60, 70, and somebody is getting loaded, they're going to have 200 cases barely touching yours. If this sounds like something where you're thinking, well, I want to own property, I want to purchase investments, but I don't have the time and experience to build that portfolio and do that, let alone find the property, negotiate it, refurbish it, get it managed after, well, that's where we come in at Aspire Property Group. If you have got 50, 100,000 or more to invest and you want to get your money working hard for you, but you don't have the time, experience, or you don't want to mess it up on the first property, we will help you build that portfolio with Aspire Property Group. The way you can get access to this is put in APG in the comments, or we'll put a link in the comments and pin it to the top. So click on there, fill in your details, and what we'll do is we'll book in a free one-to-one consultation. We'll work out where you are, where you want to get to, and if we can even help you. Now, spaces are limited. We only take on a handful of investors every single month. But if you want an opportunity for us to build your portfolio, put APG in the comments and we'll see if we can work with you. As I said, typically we go through property investments, mindset, and building a successful business. If this sounds like something you might be interested in, you're not subscribed to the channel, which by the way is over 50% of you, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you're up to date. And of course, if you could tap that like button, it really helps the growth of the channel, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.